Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we have the new Tier 10 Premium American Destroyer, the Forrest Sherman import to review for you guys today. I got lucky with one of the free firepower containers you can get with the Dido or the Canaries and managed to get her out of it. Now, I would not under any circumstances, especially right now, in the slightest at all suggest you do this, because when this video goes up on Monday, there's literally 2 more days, I believe, left, and then the Forrest Sherman will be available to purchase for coal, so you can get this ship entirely for free, and you should. Or you can purchase her for doubloons too, a lot better than just running the risk using the firepower containers. But anyway, big shout out to this channel's Patreons. I am not a CC nor affiliated with Wargaming in any way, shape, or form. And these guys, whose names should be up on the screen right now, make these reviews possible. So big shout out and thank you to those guys. Patreon's the best way to support the channel, besides of course just watching the videos and streams. And if you want to do that, link to that is in the description down below. Alright, so the Forrest Sherman, first off, this has to be one of the most modern looking ships in game. Like, you can clearly see how U.S. destroyer design evolved from this hull right here. It's a very, very modern looking ship, and as always, art department absolutely knocking it out of the park here. Now, the Forrest Sherman is a real steel ship, which adds to its cool factor. It's always nice seeing these real steel ships get added into the game. And this is the fastest firing ship in the game. And someone's doing some yard work outside. I think it's my neighbor right now. So, we're going to go ahead, look at the ship's quirks and features, and discuss whether or not she's worth the coal or your doubloons when she gets released for those 2 items later this week. Man, again, the detail on this ship is really, really, really nice. Art department, you guys, always hard carrying as usual. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. So, armor, no surprise here, it is a tier 10 DD, so 19 millimeters of armor all the way around. Superstructure is 13, and yep, since it's a DD, doesn't have to worry about those silly Citadel things that everyone else has to worry about. She has 24,900 hit points base. Her guns, she gets 3 127s. These are essentially, not essentially, they are single-mounted Austin guns. She has a 1.5 second base reload time. That's base. 180 time of her guns in 4.5 seconds. Maximum dispersion of 110 meters. Base range of 12.6 kilometers. And she gets HE and SAP. She does not get AP. Her HE does 1800 maximum damage, 9% chance of causing a fire on the target, and can pin 21 millimeters of armor. And comes out the tubes at 808 meters a second. Her SAP has a maximum damage of 2700 and can pin 36 millimeters of armor. It comes out the tubes at 808 meters a second. Okay. God, that's some crazy base values for the reload time. I'm still processing that. 1.5 seconds. Alright, she gets 4 single tube torpedo launchers. I do believe you can aim these very, very, very slightly. And the torpedo does 17,990 maximum damage, has a range of 16.5 kilometers, travels at 66 knots, is detectable from 7.4 kilometers away. I'm sorry, 1.4 kilometers away. That'd be crazy if it was 7.4. And reloads in 73 seconds. Okay. Depth charges, she gets, I believe, a single rack back here. Are there any launchers? Now, the Forrest Sherman class was very well suited to hunting submarines down. You see, I believe you got the hedgehog launchers here, and I would very much like to see these become functional in game, but we'll see. Right now, that doesn't look like there's anything on it. We shall see what happens with that. So it looks like she's just got the rack. You got a couple. I'm not 100% sure, but those look like launchers off the side. We will see once we get into game, of course. Alright. AH has a rating of 58. You get 4 76mm guns on a twin mount, and then the 127s are dual purpose. Maneuverability, maximum speed of 33.9 knots. Turning circle radius of 680 meters. Rudder shift time of 5.3 seconds. Concealment 8 kilometers base. Okay, let's go ahead and check out her gimmick box. So she gets DFAA, Hydro, 2 charges of smoke base. Hydro is 5 kilometers, 3.5 kilometer detection of torps, active for 100 seconds, reloads 120 seconds, and again 3 charges base. Smoke screen, 130 second run times, active for 30 seconds, and it reloads in 160 seconds. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put a commander build on here. I'll be right back here with you guys in a moment. Alright, so I'm not too sure about this, but this is what we're rolling with for the time being. So I built full into the reload to see how long, how short we can get down to, which it's now at 1.3 seconds, which is utterly ridiculous. But the thing is, it only has a 12.6 kilometer range. Now, and it's just a very awkward situation because I took preventive maintenance, last stand, main battery and A specialist to get the reload down, adrenaline rush, obviously, to get the reload down even faster when you take damage if you don't know what adrenaline rush does, superintendent for additional charge of the smoke screen, and then survivability expert for more health, and then concealment expert. And my big dilemma was I really wanted to take main battery and AA expert. That way we can get the range out a little bit more, because 12.6 kilometers is not very far by tier 10 standards. Now, it does have American shells, and obviously you don't want like a freaking 16 kilometer range on it, but somewhere around 13, 14 would be a little bit more usable, and that's where the module build comes in. So I took main armaments mod 1 to keep the main guns in the fight, and then engine room protection to keep the engine in the fight. Then with aiming systems mod 1, because nothing else here is really useful. I mean, the turret rotation is already really fast, the AA is already darn good already. You only have 4 torpedo tubes, so I don't see much reason to build into that now. You could take smoke generator mod 1 to increase the action time of the smoke, you could do that. But we just went with aiming systems mod 1. Engine room mod 2, I'm sorry, propulsion mod 1 to get a quicker acceleration time out of the ship. That's very useful when you need to juke some shots or run away. And then concealment system mod 1 to get the ship's stealth down even more. And main battery mod 3. Now here's the thing, I really kind of want to take gunfire control system mod 2. That will increase the range quite a bit. It'll be out to 14 kilometers, which will be a much more usable range, and I'm probably going to, actually I am going to do that. Like the DPM, you know, having a nutty 1.3 second reload time is fantastic, but I mean, this only cuts it down to 1.4 seconds, so we're losing a tenth of a second. We still have adrenaline rush as well for it to kick in, but I mean, this will be a much more usable, and I think a much more comfortable for someone like me who hasn't really played a lot of American DDs. And sure, I'm sure you can make the full reload build work, absolutely, but I think for a more comfortable build, that's what we're going to go with. So this build now, we have 28,400 hit points. I just showed you the reload on the guns now, and concealment's now down to 6.5 kilometers with the speed flag on. The Sherman can now goes 35.6 knots. Alright, we're going to go ahead. Oh, and with the, I did put the fire flags on. We now have an 11% fire chance. That's also with Demolition Expert as well. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and jump into battle with Halsey on the Sherman. I'll see you guys there. Alright guys, the voiceover Mountbatten here, and oh my god, SAP was a mistake. This ship is friggin' nuts. Now, do keep in mind, especially when it comes to the American type of destroyers, though, the slow maneuverability and the lots of DACA guns, I'm not that good of a destroyer player. The only type of destroyers that I'm actually pretty decent in are ships like Kaba and Kleber, run and gun type of DDs. These slower, sluggish, high DPM DDs I'm not that fantastic in, although they're pretty easy to do a lot of damage in. But there's a difference between doing a lot of damage and performing well in terms of your team. But the Forrest Sherman excels at dealing damage. This is probably the best and easiest farming ship out at the moment. Well, will be out this week. This ship is nuts. With this insane fire rate, the combination of SAP, with that fire rate, again, SAP was a mistake. So, in the matches that I played, unfortunately only one, and it should be the one you're watching in the background right now, actually lasted any decent amount of time, and that was unfortunately a loss. This is actually a fairly close game, and what you see me doing here is I go to the, I believe it's the ACAP, and I get into a very favorable position for American DDs or any type of island-hugging, spammy ships. So ships like Worcester, Colbert, Smolensk, again, the American DDs. You get into a position where you can keep an island in between you and the enemy, and when the enemy is spotted, you absolutely rain hell down upon them. And this is something that the Forrest Sherman excels at. For the most of this video, I'm making use of island cover. I'm not really using smoke screens. And you can see what this ship can do. That I do an excellent job of taking this cap and then defending it like a rabid chihuahua, which is what this ship is very, very, very good at. Also what ships like Smallland are good at too. And essentially I play this ship very similarly to Smallland because it's the ship with the closest set of comparable characteristics that I've played in terms of playing destroyers. And again, just look at what I'm able to do in this video. The amount of rounds you're able to put downrange with 3 guns is utterly ridiculous. And then you, again, add SAP in on top of that. This armament that can pin 36 millimeters of armor. It's downright goofy. And you don't only have SAP, you do have HE, but SAP is what you want to be using when you can. Now, there are situations like what you're seeing here when I'm facing a bow on Iowa. Of course, SAP, when ships steeply angle there, it's not going to do that great. That's when you switch over to the HE and start trying to burn the target down, which the Sherman is also pretty good at. But again, you ideally want to be using SAP because of that SAP alpha. So anytime a ship presents you their superstructure, when we're talking about battleships, of course, or any part of their ship that's below 36 millimeters. So again, most tier 10 battleships, bows and sterns, or if you run across a Conqueror or a French battleship, any part of the ship darn near, you want to shoot that with SAP. And with the crazy DPM of the Forrest Sherman, you will be melting them down very, 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 very quickly. I also had a couple of matches where, I mean, shoot, Alaska, twice I ran into Alaskas that had either used a radar or didn't use a radar, and it's crazy the speed at which you will melt them down if they can't get behind cover and you have them spotted and you're just letting your machine gun go on them. This ship is insane when it comes to that. So this is, again, probably one of the best farming ships that are going to be released this year, unless they somehow make something even more crazier than this thing. But its other attributes besides its crazy farming abilities. So the survivability, I mean, it's a fairly sluggish DD. It's not one that you want to be open water gunboating because that's how you die. Again, like I said, you want to find an island, hug it, use your American shell arcs, rain hellfire down upon the enemy. You do also have your American smokescreen, which is very nice, so when there isn't an island available, you can pop that and farm to your heart's content, but don't get too comfortable in that smokescreen because smoke screens, as we know, attract torpedoes, and you do have Hydra to thankfully counter that. That's where the propulsion mod comes in very handy. There's quite a few instances where I was in my smoke screen, had Hydra up, see the torpedoes. Thankfully, with the propulsion mod, you're able to accelerate in time, get out of the way of those torpedoes, and keep farming. Now, the torpedoes, as you guys should see me use them here, God, these things are super restrictive in terms of their firing arcs. You can angle them a little bit, a little itty bitty bit when you go into the torpedo camera, but other than that, good luck using them. You essentially have to be pretty much facing almost like a 45-degree angle toward the target to get them off. There's definitely no firing them at a ship behind you unless you turn your entire ship around. But when you're contesting a cap and The ships don't really have too much room to maneuver, especially in the cap like I'm contesting here, while protecting here. They can be useful, and as always with torpedoes, you can fire them off willy-nilly, sometimes snag a hit or two, but it's not like you get a spread of 4 or 5 torpedoes. You only get 2 here, so you really have to be careful about what you're launching them at. You can single drop them, which is quite useful, but again, it's only 2 per side, so it's got them. It's nice that she does have them, so in those close-in DD engagements, if you need to, you can potentially get them off, but it's going to be kind of a hassle to do so. Depth charges, it's only the rack in the back. The Hedgehog launchers up front, unfortunately, aren't active. Hopefully in the near future, with submarines coming out, we're going to get around to getting those active. But you do launch basically that whole rack of torpedoes in the back in a straight line, which is a pretty nice pattern. Once we get submarines back in the game, you can basically sail over the top of one and just ruin their day like that. AA was fairly decent. It has an A rating of 60. It's, I wouldn't say an AA barge. It's got it enough to where if you're with another AA boat, you can definitely ruin the CV's day, but it's not like the kid that just says, no, you're not going to do that, CV. Maneuverability, I touched on this already. It's fairly sluggish for a destroyer. It's not like Harugamo sluggish, but it's not, it's no Kleber, Calbaros, ships that I'm used to playing, but it's fairly maneuverable, and you will in most cases be able to get out of a sticky situation, but you also don't want to be caught completely pants down because, again, you're not a Cabo or a Kleber. You can't zoom on out of there. It does go at least 35.6 knots, which is on the slower side for tier 10 DDs, but again, you got the smoke, and if you use that smoke wisely, you can prevent from getting in most terrible situations. 6.5 concealment, pretty decent concealment. Definitely not the lowest level of tier 10 DDs, but definitely not the highest either. And again, it's enough to where you can get where you need to get. Use your smoke, island cover to be a pest, and do what you gotta do. So overall, the Forrest Sherman. What is my rating of the ship? I would give this ship an 8 out of 10. Now, do keep in mind, I am an average destroyer player. I'm not a super unicum or anything. But for random battles, this thing's absolutely a fantastic farmer. If you want to be farming some credits, you can easily do that here in the Sherman. So its pros are of course, is absolutely ridiculous firing rate. You get SAP, which again, SAP in this level of firing rate from a DD is absolutely just disgusting. You get that long duration American smokescreen. You get hydroacoustic search and DFA to boot on top of that. And I would say a plus is that you can single drop the torpedoes, but overall it's not a... I won't say the torpedoes would be a plus, but the ability to single drop them is very much welcomed. The cons being, of course, that you do only get 2 torpedoes per side. And not the best AA. It's fairly sluggish by tier 10 DD standards, and you don't get a heal or anything, and it is a fairly large target. It sits up, I wouldn't say it like stands out of the water, but it is one of the higher sitting DDs in the waterline, especially with the way the bow tapers to the front, and you have a lot of meaty superstructure running up and down the length of the ship, so it's fairly easy to hit this thing with any type of HE spamming cruiser, or even for battleships. When I've been playing in BBs and see this thing, it's not a particularly hard target to hit once you set your mind to hitting it. A lot of the other DDs, they'll have a cutout in the middle for torpedoes or something like that. But the Forrest Sherman, since it's more of a more modern design, it's got that bulkier superstructure. But overall, I'd say it's absolutely worth the coal when she gets released for coal later this week. Again, I wouldn't spend money on it because this is going to be like a freaking... How much do they charge for the app? Like $30 or $50, something like that. Almost a $200 premium ship. Save up your coal, pick this up. I would definitely recommend this as a coal ship. Fantastic random battles farmer. But in competitive, you think about it for competitive, for ranked or clan battles, I don't think it's going to be really that useful because it's great at farming, and yes, it will absolutely murder any DD that comes across it that isn't something like a small end with a heal and with almost the same amount of DPM from its guns. But any other DD this thing runs across, it's going to like steal their kidneys and run away with their health. Unless it's, it's down on its health. But again, this is a great DD murderer, but I don't see this becoming too useful in clan battles. But for random battles, absolutely one of the best farmers you can get out there. So if you want a nice farming ship, this is absolutely the ship to get for you. Alright guys, that's my review of the Forrest Sherman. Again, she'll be releasing later this week for coal. And again, I would recommend you pick this ship up for coal. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 35,000 subs, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.